Okay, moving on to video 2, I want to talk a little bit about organizing your project. And so this is something that you need to remember to do every time you open Maya. So Maya wants everything to be stored in a very specific type of folder. And so you'll see that the one we're going to go into is this bridge project. Okay, and so if I double click on that, you'll see that under this bridge folder I have a whole bunch of different folders, right? And then this one thing that says workspace.mail. That's just sort of a default file that Maya creates for every project. So if I need to give my project to someone else, like right now, this is the path that I'm working on from my computer, right? But when I give it to someone else, they're going to put it on their desktop or they're going to put it on their hard drive, and it's going to have a completely different path. So any files that I have associated with this project will get not lost, but the path to them will get lost. How do you find those locally? And so what we're doing is we're going to set our project. We're going to say no matter where this folder is, no matter where the bridge folder is, if I tell Maya that's where the bridge folder is, it can find all of the other files relative to that. Okay? So how I do that is I go File, and I go to Set Project. That opened on my other screen, so I'll pull this over. And so I just navigated to this location, which is on the network drive, and I just click Bridge and Set. And so now Maya knows that the area we're looking for is always going to be in that bridge folder. So if I go File, Open Scene, you'll see that the exercise as this started was this bridge deconstructed. And it's going to take us straight into our scenes folder where I can open these Maya files up. The project we started with was this bridge deconstructed, right? Once we put it all together using those move tools we learned in the last project, we get something like this. Okay, and so this is the file we're going to be working on. But I just want to reiterate, in this bridge folder, we could have all sorts of different things. Like if we look under our image folder, here's some of the renders that we have of our bridge, right? Rendered images and a movie. You would also notice that under our scenes file, this is where all of our scenes are. And if we had any textures associated, which I currently have some to use, you'll see that those are going to be stored in our source images file. And so the only way Maya can find all of those associated files if I tell it our project is bridge. Okay, and so that's important to know. If you don't set your project, your textures are going to mess up. You're going to end up saving your file locally on a lab computer or something, and it's just going to cause a nightmare. So this is the biggest thing I have to hammer people on and be like, do it. And literally this semester alone, I would say probably 7 people have lost all of their work because they didn't set their project. So I can't cry for you because I've said this too many times already. So here we are. We're in this bridge project, and so we have this bridge now. But I want to make, and I just got this by obviously just moving these pieces around, right? I want to set this. I want to hide this. Not necessarily because I'm ashamed of it, because I want to put it somewhere so I can be working on other things. Like currently, if I wanted to make a new model and I click the box, see it puts it down here, like underneath this bridge in the center of this post, and like really, I just want to get this out of my way so I can be doing some other stuff. Okay, so if I go back to my channel box, you'll see down here at the bottom is my layers editor. So if I that's what we're going to do, is we're going to put it all in a layer in a minute. But first, let me just show you the quick way of hiding and unhiding stuff. If I grab a bunch of stuff and just hit Control H, hey, I hit it. That's great. That's really what I wanted, right? I just wanted to get rid of that. But what if I'm like, oh, wait, I wanted to do something else to it first. How do I get that back? I can't select it anymore. It's gone, right? So, under Windows, we're going to open up something called the outliner. Okay. Now this is going to show us all of the different files all of the different objects that are in our file. You'll see our cameras up here, our perspective camera, which we're clicking through, our top, front, and side cameras. And you'll see all of these objects. Now the ones that are gray are the ones I hid. Okay, so if I select one of those and hit Shift H, it's going to unhide it. Okay, or I can select all of these and hit Shift H and it'll bring those back, right? In fact, I'm going to just select everything in the scene and hit Shift H. I selected multiple things by selecting the top one and holding Shift and it'll select a range of them. You can hit Control and select them sort of randomly if you need to. So Shift will select a line of stuff, and Control will help select individual things. That also is kind of similar shortcut keys to what we would use to select multiple things in our view. If I hold this and select it, but now I want to select this, I could try to drag select multiple things, but if I hold Shift, it will toggle select this over and over again. I can either select or unselect it, and I can just keep adding things to that selection. Right? So what I really want to do is just drag select everything, and I want to just make something, because this is kind of clunky to be able to have to drag select this and hit Control H, and then when I want it back, to go in here and select everything and hit Shift H to bring it back. And we're going to get more objects in there that's even going to make it more confusing. So what I want to do is just put this in a layer to hide it. Now this is not like a Photoshop layer where if I put something in one layer above it, then it'll show up in the viewport higher than that. Like, that's not how this works. This is more just for organizing the visibility of our object, being able to turn it off and being able to lock it. So I'm just going to select everything, and in our layers menu down here, I'm going to click this button all the way to the end. This is going to create a new layer, and it's going to put those objects in it. Now if I just clicked this button, it would just create an empty layer, but it wouldn't put those objects in it. So if I click this, it's going to create a layer, put those objects in it. And now you'll see that if I toggle off that V, I can sort of turn the visibility on and off in this object. Now if I missed one of them, let's say I missed this object and I needed to add that to my layer, I could right click while I have that selected and just say add selected objects. Okay, and that would allow me to put that in there. So I can turn on and off the visibility. I can also go in here and name this layer, which is probably a good idea. And I'll call this bridge layer. Right. If I put a space in there, it'll give me an error. Maya doesn't like spaces in the name, so you could, if you want a space, you can use an underscore or a dash. So hit save, bridge layer. Okay, now the thing I want to notice is I can still select this. I can still do anything I want to it. And the reason for that is because this little box here is empty. That means it's just normal like it always would be. But if I click that box, now I can't select it and I can barely see it. It's kind of this echo of it in our scene. Right? This is called templated mode. This is if I need to have it in there to refer to it, but I don't want to actually interact with it. Right? And I don't really want it to be in my scene visibility, because then it just obscures stuff. I can also hit the R button, and now it looks like it's back to normal, but you'll see that I can't select it. And this is called referenced mode. And then if I click it one more time, we're back to normal where I can select everything. So we've got these three options there that we can just sort of toggle through. I'm going to just turn off the visibility of this layer now, because I really just want to be able to work in my scene and not have to work around the bridge. So I'm just going to turn that off. And we're going to get into some very basic modeling now. So I'm going to create a box. Okay, and I'm actually going to create a sphere too, just so we can look at this sphere off to the side. So you'll see that this sphere is actually made up of, I don't know if you can see that very well. I'm going to change the color of this really quick just to make it easier to see. I'm just going to put it back to gray. Okay, so you'll see that on this sphere, it's made up of a bunch of little boxes, right? Or little squares. And it's also made up of a bunch of little edges, like however you want to look at this. Is it made up of a bunch of lines or what? So let's talk about this. This is the object, and when I move it, I'm moving the entire object, right? I'm scaling, rotating the entire object. I'm in object mode. But I want to go into component mode. Okay? And component means I want to be able to edit each of these components, the things that make it up, individually. So the quickest and easiest way, the way I like to use, is right-clicking. We can choose from some of these options. Now currently we're in object mode, and when we need to go back to it, that's how we'll do it. So if I right click and hold that down, I'm going to go to vertex first. So vertex is going to bring up a bunch of these little dots all over this, right? You'll see that if I grab one of those dots and move it, I can make changes to this model, right? But you will also notice I can't really rotate it, and I can't really scale it. And that's because this vertex is really just a point in space, right? It has no volume, it has no mass because it's just a point, right? But I can use this if I grab a whole selection of them and move them. I'm not going to be able to scale or rotate the individual piece, but I can scale and rotate sort of the groups of pieces, right? I could do something like that if I need to, whatever I need to do, right, to get a large group of these things moved around. So we have a dot, we have a point in space, right? I'll go back to this thing to make my point. I have a dot in space. Let's use a color I can see. If I have a second dot, the best way to connect that is not this zigzaggy line like this, right? It's a straight line, right? We need a perfectly straight line. And that's what we're going to get with these vertices as well. If I have two vertices, they are going to be connected with a straight line. And that straight line is called an edge. So if I right click and go to edge, you'll see that I can grab any of these edges and move them around. Now they do have a length, right? I can make them longer, shorter, right? And like other things, I can select multiple edges by holding shift and scale those up and do some interesting things to the model, right? I can also move those, of course, and rotate them. Okay. So let me show you kind of an interesting thing here. If I click one edge, that has that. If I hold shift, I can click two edges, and I could go around here and select all those edges, or I could just double click this edge, and it's going to select that entire ring around the object. Now the reason it selects that ring instead of selecting something crazy like this, is because of how it looks at the rest of the items around it, right? Like I look at this, I select this, and it realizes, hey, there's a parallel line here and a parallel line here. And so if I were to double select that, it would say, well, okay, this one also has these parallel lines to both sides of it, right? This must be the way the edge is flowing, okay? And this is what we call edge flow or edge looping, or once you get into a little bit more complicated edge flow, topology. It's the way that these edges flow around your object are going to generate your topology. Now, let's look at something here. When I double-clicked this edge, it gets up to this point and it stops. Right? It doesn't keep going around the side of the model, and it's because it gets to this really complicated section here and it doesn't know what to do with it. Should it go that way or that way or that way or that way? So it just stops. Once it doesn't know what to do, it stops the selection. Okay? So I'm going to right click again and we're going to go to face. And so as I mouse around here, you'll see that it's highlighting these different faces. And you might expect that what a face is just a square, right? A square on the surface of this object. But that's not true. If a point is just a dot in space, or it's not entirely true. If a point is just a dot in space and an edge is a line connecting those two dots, a face is any enclosed surfaces or any enclosed area of edges, right? And so in this case, it would be a four-sided face, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. But if we go up here to the top, you'll also see that we have some three-sided faces. Okay, these are triangles, and these are quads. Quadrangles, I guess, but we just call them quads. Now these are by default what you're going to find the most inside of Maya. Just know that these are not the only size faces you can have. You could have a face that has 1,000 sides, but anything over 4 is kind of considered bad practice, right? Because we can usually subdivide things back down to 3 or 4 sided faces. We can't get any smaller than a 3-sided face, though, right? If we had a 2-sided face, that's not a surface. That's just 2 lines on top of each other. We have to have that third line to give it that second dimension, right? So a face is any enclosed area, and just like any other component, I can grab it and I can scale it, and I can move it, and I can rotate it, right? Also, if I double click on a face, I'm going to do some weird stuff. It's going to select them all, right? Because it doesn't know which way to go. But if I click one and then hold shift and double click the second one, it will select that whole ring of faces, right? And so this is a very quick way of getting some modeling done, right? You can get a really interesting model kind of quickly just by being able to quickly scale or rotate those things. Okay, so these are all the component modes of our model. So I want to model a car to be driving across my bridge. Okay, so the first thing I would need to do is sort of start scaling this, but no matter how much I scale it, I don't really have enough mesh here to do anything other than make a box, right? So instead of doing all that, I'm going to add some additional mesh to this. Now, when I created it, if I went to create polygon primitives, you'll see that at the end of this there's a little box that I can select. And that would give me the option to add additional divisions in here. But if you didn't do that, you've already created your object. It's not too late. We can still go back to our channel box here, and under inputs, we'll see this polycube 2. And this is the node that was used to create this box in the first place. So what I can do now is if I highlight these numbers and middle click out here and drag, I can start adding additional edges to this, right? So I want to stop there on that axis, and then maybe depth-wise give it one more. Okay. Now I'm doing this just so I have a little bit more mesh to move around a little bit here. So I'm going to scale this down, and I would be basing this off of a car image that you could find for reference. And there's plenty of car images on the internet. I'll search and try to find something, safe. Maybe you would use something like this car image, or whatever it is you like off of the internet. But we're going to do that so we get an idea of scale, because no matter how much you think you know what a car looks like, you may be surprised at how much you could get it wrong just by trying to do this from your head. So I'm going to use that to kind of get my rough idea of my size. I want mine to be a little bit of a pudgier car, right, like this. And then I also noticed from this that my trunk is a little shorter than my hood, right? So what I could do is I could, this section here is going to be my trunk, this section is going to be my hood. I can start moving these edges around. So if I'm going to right click and go to edge, and I can double click it, and it's going to select that entire edge ring, or edge loop. And then I can use my move tool to move that around. Now, I don't want to move it like that by accident, so I'm just going to slide it in one axis only. I'm going to make my trunk kind of small. Double click this. I'll make my hood a little small too. Now, here's the thing. I can go here now to face. I just right clicked and went to face. And I can push and pull this all day long. I'm not really going to be able to get, that's not the shape, right? I really need more mesh. I need more, again, those two extra edges were nice. They gave me a little bit more room to move stuff around. But I need more. Okay, sorry. And so I can extrude this up. What I'm needing to do is get more mesh out of this. So I'm going to go to modeling. Make sure we're on the modeling tab. And under mesh, I'm going to go to edit mesh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to extrude. And that's just going to allow us to pull this up and get additional mesh out of it. So this is it's like extruding out more faces, right? Now there's some stuff on here I could change. I could change the offset, or I could change the divisions and add extras. Or I could just hit W, E, or R and go back to my scale tool and do some manipulating like this. Right. I can start getting sort of the shape of the car I want to have for this model. Right. I'm going to scale this in a little bit. Scale this back. And then we can just start pushing this around and making this model look however we want, right? Maybe I'll do this, and I will scale it forward like that. Or maybe I'll go to my edges and do this and give me just a little bit more bulge on the side, right? And so little bits at a time, you're seeing that my car is starting to kind of take shape. Maybe I want the hood to seem sort of rounded on the sides, and I can sort of push that down. Maybe push this down just a touch too, right? I'm just starting to get this car shape out of it. And whatever car shape you're going for, you know, that's your call. Maybe you want something a little more sporty, you know, maybe you want, I don't know, like this is yours to build, and so we're just going to push this around until we start getting the form that we like. This is where most modeling comes from. This is what we're doing, is we're just changing the shape and making it more more accurate to what we want our car to look like. Okay, and so I'm going to go for something somewhat generic. Just get a little bit bulge in there. Yeah, so that's not bad. I also maybe I want mine to be a little bit more sporty. I'll grab all these vertices and just slide that forward. Grab this edge. Slide it up. Alright, there we go. I'm getting something a little... There we go. And so now we sort of have this basic boxed out version of our model. Now, like everything, you only put as much detail in it as you're going to need. And if I'm viewing this car from way back here, I may not need much more detail than that, right? I'm going to stop here on modeling the car just because, you know, there's more we can do. But you know, this is all I really want to do on mine today for this part of the modeling. Just realize you can move these sub-objects around. I do want to give it some wheels though, right? And so I'm just going to give it kind of some quick, easy wheels. I'm just creating a cylinder. I'm going to scale it in these two axes, right? I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Actually, negative 90 or 90 is your call. Now I'll probably want to scale it in just a little bit. Again, continue to make it a little smaller. And then place this where the wheel should be. Now I can do that again. I could create a completely new one and create a, you know, completely do the whole process again. Or I could just duplicate this one. Now Control C, Control V will work. But it's very messy. So watch this. If I had to do Control C and Control V, did that even work? Oh, I wasn't in the right. So Control C, Control V. What just happened? Yeah, undo that. Just messed something up, I think. Oh, yeah, that works. It creates the group, but it creates a duplicate of it, but it puts it inside of this group. And so that's just too much work. Let's just do the easiest way, which is Control D, as in dog, or duplicate. Control D for duplicate. And then I can just move that tire back, and then if I wanted to make it a little bit bigger, I could, right? Okay. So this is my car. I'm going to scale these two things in a little bit. And that's all I really wanted to go for in modeling my car. Okay, so I'm going to pick this back up in the next video. We're going to talk about rigging it and setting some basic animation on it.